This video is going to show you solo Grandmaster Nightfall getting platinum rank on the arms dealer whilst using a Stasis subclass. The reason for that is because there's been a couple of comments I've had this season about Stasis. Are you going to do some runs with Stasis? And I've answered back to a lot of people saying probably not, because I wanted to focus Solo 3.0 this season. But now we've had Solo and it's settled into the sandbox. And we're waiting on Arc. I wanted to sort of start playing other subclasses, right? So I'm trying to avoid playing solo because I have spammed it this season, and we all have, to be fair. So I wanted to do a Behemoth setup whilst using no barrier weapon. I have no barrier weapon on me. I have the Kinetic Exotic GL, Witherhoard, a Scout Rifle with Unstoppable in it, Vouchsafe because there's a ton of Void Shields, and Vouchsafe's a really good Scout explosive, very good. And then we're using the Linear Fusion Cataclysmic, crafted with 4 times the charm and bait and switch because it's solar. The ammo goes far, and it's a solar acute ban, right? It's giving me good total damage and stuff, so that's why I've got that on. But as you can see, I don't have barrier, so look at this. We're gonna use Duskfields, right, to take down this barrier. So we're using Heart of Inmost Light to enable us to spam. I'll repeat, to spam Duskfield Grenades. We can actually back-to-back Duskfield champs and kill them with only Witherhoard. We actually even don't need heavy. But if we want to burst one down, then we need to sort of incorporate a little bit of heavy. That's why I went with the bait and switch. Makes sense with Witherhoard. You're just getting that massive damage so we can melt champs down within one Duskfield. I've got a couple of fragments and stuff and the build to help out with that. So it's really this setup is all based around getting targets frozen, right? So we've really got to double down on the Duskfield. So in order to the way I went with that is I went with the exotic chestplate Heart of Inmost Light, which ensures that you can spam that, right? As long as you've got a high resilience stat, tier 10 resilience, you can spam your rally barricade. So every time you spam a rally barricade, you get increase to great energy. But I've also got bomber on the class item to really add a little bit more great energy, right? For the aspects, the build itself, we're using Techtonic Harvest, the Diamond Lance. The reason for them two is because they're the best 2 fragments, and it lets you build craft. The other one that makes you slide is PvP based. Don't use it. What I'm using, it means you can allow to use more fragments, more building, right, on top of builds. So there's more synergy. So you use those two. Fragments wise, we're using Whisper of Shards. That gives you plus 10 free resilience. It's got some other benefits, but that's really why I've got it on, plus 10 free resilience. The Whisper of Torment gives you great energy when you take damage. That's all the time in Grandmasters. I can't tell you how good Whisper of Torment is. Best in slot. Always have that one on your Titan. Whisper of Fissures. So when you destroy a frozen target or a stasis crystal, the size and burst is more significant. It's like this season with the solar ignition thing where you've got bigger radius. It's like that, but for stasis. Fissures is really good. I always run it, especially on Warlock, Stasis Warlock, but it's good on Titans as well. Like, your super's going to do a bit more of area effect damage as well. Just in general. So it's a really good all-round fragment to put on. The next one is Whisper of Durance. This is critical to the setup. If you don't put Whisper of Durance on, your Duskfield will run out too soon, meaning that you won't be able to infinitely stun lock the barriers with freezing them. Yeah, so make your Duskfield last longer by putting on Whisper of Durance. And we've got Rally Barricade on as opposed to Towering, because Towering is a longer cooldown. Base, right? Base Rally is 32, Towering's 40, I think. So that impacts Heart of Inmost Light. It means you're going to get far more barricades as opposed to Towering. You'll still get plenty, but you really don't need Tower and Barricade, right? It's sort of not needed per se for this. It's arms dealer. There'll be some things where Towering is useful. I've used Towering for a lot of times, and it's a good defensive ability. But if you're playing something from a long range, then Rally Barricade's better because you're getting more stability, more range on your weapon, all sorts of stuff. More, more reload. So Rally's just too good to pass up, and he gels better with the build. We get more grenades and stuff like that. So with this barrier here, we're gonna have to wait because I need to Duskfield this champ. So this barrier, I know from past experience, he actually pushes. So we're gonna wait till that champ pushes and try and get a Duskfield on. He actually walks out of it, which they can do. I mean, he just walked out of it before he got frozen. Because what happens is they first slow in the Duskfield, and then after an elapsed time, they will then freeze. Right, you'll see. Look, so it's frozen. We're going to do a bit of linear, and that just melts the champ down. So there's multiple ways to do this. You're going to see me take champions with just Witherhoard and Scout. Right, Witherhoard, Scout. You can actually just do that, because I can just keep spamming my Duskfield. This is what's critical to the build. Having that high discipline, having Inmost light on. You wouldn't be able to do this with Armentarium. You wouldn't be able to spam nades back to back like this. It would be a little bit... You'd get double Duskfield, you know. So you'd have one in reserve, but what's the point in having one in reserve when you can just get one back in a few seconds anyways? So you see my thought process? So Armentarium's an old-fashioned exotic in my books. It is a good exotic, but having most like far better. All-rounder. Right? It's getting so much more benefits to it. You know, it's not just covering grenade, it's covering your melee, it's covering your class ability. Armentarium doesn't do none of that stuff, it just gives you an extra grenade. Don't need it. Having most likely will do that for you anyway. Providing you've got the stats though, you need that high resilience. But you saw there, I was just stunning that champ back to back because as I throw a Duskfield, I do a barricade, you'll see I'll get Bomber to proc and the empowerment buff. So by the time that Duskfield just about ends, I can restun that champ and freeze lock them. We're going to spawn in the Thresher, which we done that with the orb. So I done this on purpose so that we didn't have to deal with the Thresher while dealing with the barriers. It just made sense to do it like this. To delay the spawn on the Thresher, you just wait with the orb. You don't bring it all the way down here, and that's all you do with that. That's this section dealt with. Pretty straightforward. We're just checking for ammo because I spent a bit. I was sure there was another break, but I was likely mistaken, and there wasn't. That's okay though, because fourth time's the charm makes the ammo go further, right? And that's what it's all about. Especially on solo Grandmasters, you need to stop thinking about DPS and DPS charts and stuff like that. What weapons have ammo that goes far? You get a lot of they're good ammo economy, right? They might not be the best in slot on a graph, but you're not playing a graph, you're playing Destiny 2. Just be common sense with it, right? So it's a case of I know what works for solo and what doesn't, I know where, like if I was to make a graph myself on like top 10, I would know where all they would place in terms of ease of use and what's best to use overall. But yeah, you don't need to sort of optimize the truest, best DPS on something like this, on Nightfalls and stuff. If you're trying to achieve a very specific goal, like solo one phase a dungeon, like Catel or DPS in a raid or whatever, then that's different. But with this, there's no time constraints in terms of if you don't do certain thing, you'll die. Obviously, if you die in a solo game, you're going back to orbit anyways. So that's based on the. Obviously, if you don't die, it's fine. But anything's possible is what I'm saying, right? That's all I'm saying with it. But people don't seem to realise that in the sandbox that we have with Destiny, anything can be possible in these. In Grandmasters, literally anything. It just depends on how much time and patience are you wanting to put into it. I'm on about any loadout that you can imagine can be done. Might not be by me, might be by someone else though. But people want to know, people want ease of life. I think, you know, the lifespan of Destiny has shown us that not all players want difficult stuff all the time. They want quality of life. They want to get on, play the game, have a good time while doing it, being it somewhat challenging for most, but not too difficult. If it's too difficult, it becomes annoying to them. To the elite players, they want everything. They want, like, you know, massive raids and stuff, and they want a different game, really, as opposed to the majority player base. The majority player base just want to be effective with stuff, and they want to use a variety of stuff, and they just want it to be good. They don't want to be bothered with, we want to balance this one because it's doing 10% too much damage. They don't want that. They just want to be able to put something on and for it to be effective in endgame. That's it. That's all they want. They don't, you know, some players, as I say, want more than that. So with the tank section, you can see I'm charged with light. This is done on purpose. I picked it up from that barrier because I'm going to try and one-cycle this champ as quickly as I can. Let's see if we can stick Witherhoard, Scout, and then bait and switch. We need to break 2 legs. If we do that, we will get the damage in. So we should be able to. That Legionary's messing up my aim assist, but we got the tank. That makes things a lot easier if I can do that. See, when you come in this room, the ads are just coming out of the doors and stuff. Right, so you've got that 2-3 seconds to sort of spawn kill that tank. You can only really do it with bait and switch. If you didn't have bait and switch, you wouldn't get the damage in on each leg, and the tank, even if you crit both legs, the tank would be one shot, not dead. You see, it wouldn't be too much of a problem because you're playing from a range. Yeah, so you just peek in and out of this cover here that you have. The Unstoppables push, so we'll try and do some damage here while champ's up. Also try and get some stuns on the champ while his ads surround him, because you'll get a little bit of benefit from Revitalizing Blast. I didn't go the whole route of Solar Fulmination and all that stuff because I'm playing Stasis. I don't want Solar Ignitions to be the point of the video because we're playing Stasis. So Stasis is the point of the whole thing. Ads will start to back up when there's not many left, so less than half. I would say they back up to the back left corner of the room. So we'll let them do that. We'll spam, I can say, we'll be spamming Witherhoard, our nade, stuff like that. Pretty straightforward this room. The only really thing that could kill you is the tank, really. It's just being out of position, and that solar blast attack could maybe hit the floor next to you and kill you because of the splash damage. They are one shot if you're close enough. If you're a couple of meters off, then you'll only take, say, half damage at 100% resilience. So I actually didn't even go double solar in this, if you noticed. I just went solar, the solar mod, which is solar and void. Nothing does void in this apart from the Centurions. And I actually went arc resist as well, because I forgot to put on the other solar. But having watched it back, wasn't half bad choice, because all the legionaries do arc. So I'm getting a trifecta resistance on my chest plate. Worked out alright, but again, he's only arms dealer, so it's not too much of a fuss. So some of the ads will retreat to where the champs are. It's just what they do. So the game's telling you it wants you to push the champs. If not, then the ads are just going to hide. So we're going to push up a little bit, because there's more ads alive than you'd think. Right now it looks like there's just one legionary. There's like 4, which is a big deal, because as I said, they could kill you, just with it being Grandmaster and stuff. So I'll use a Duskfield and a Witherhoard. Witherhoard and Duskfield combo is such a good thing, because they stay in, you know, obviously in that nade, and then Witherhoard just does all that tick damage and takes them out. It's a perfect pairing. So this is our first challenging moment, the double barriers. Now, the Behemoth Super will also stun lock 3's champs. However, it struggles damage-wise without Symphoceps. Right, Symphoceps gives you a damage to Super and stuff like that. So, because we haven't got Symphoceps on, obviously we've got to have Inmost Light. It's gonna struggle against... I would struggle to kill one champ from 100% to 0 with one Super. But if we can get a champ half HP, then pop Super before the barrier comes up, then we're fine. We'll be able to actually kill one, because these double barriers are a bit of a nightmare. So I'm going to try to bait one of the champs off us. So I've got this one here. So I decided to try and one cycle the champ, which was working. But I missed a crit or two, so that's a shame. And I just ran out. So I should have popped Barricade in between. After I'd threw my first Duskfield, I should have done that. So what I'm going to decide to do instead is use Super. The champ is literally half HP. Obviously I popped Super at the right time. It'd be critical because obviously there's that animation. It's like a 2-second animation. So say that champ wasn't frozen, but he's half HP. He's going to barry, isn't he? By the time you pop Super, he's regained all his HP. So you need to, after the barrier puts a shield up or attempts to, that's when you would pop a Super if you're using this setup. This barrier's not quite. He's walking into the Duskfield though, which is good. So now we're good. Now we can get our damage in. Doing massive damage there. We'll charge with light as well, you see. So that's why it was doing even more so. And bait and switch and the solar cube. And it turns champions to basically master Nightfall champs. We'd all see people don't realize that the burns. Because of the burns, you can basically do similar amount of damage to GM champs as you would on Master. Yeah. As long as you got buffs and stuff. So you're turning GM champs into Master champs. That's how good burns are. Obviously, you know, you can stack with the burns and use other buffs like high energy fire and all that stuff. But it just goes to show. And that was always a complaint of GMs on how tough champs were. They're not now. They are really starting to be more balanced, easier wise. The only champ that's a bit of an issue now, always will be, is Overlords. But it depends on what weapon you deal with, what you're using on them. Obviously we've got Overlord SMG. Now look at this. Just look at this Duskfield and Revitalizing Blast combo. It was just such a joy just to see all that. It's a shame that this game, I was thinking to myself lately about this game, because with the new subclass has been revealed, or it's been leaked. Whether it's on intention, we don't know. Probably on intention, to be honest, because it's from an art guy, so probably done so that it actually gives some hype for the live stream coming up. They know what they're doing. They're not dumb. But anyways, they released the new poison class, or whatever it's going to be called, right? We're going to end up having a lot of different elements in this game, right? So what my thing was, is if you remember, there was a mod, I think it was called Focus and Lens. If you affected enemies with stasis, light subclasses got a benefit to it, right? Now that's an amazing mod. Why was it an amazing mod? Well, think about it. You're in a raid, have somebody on Revenant, then somebody's on Chaos Reach. Then you've got a little bit of synergy there. You've got people optimizing their team comp based on elements, right? So why don't we have where different elements react to each other, right? So if you do have, say you've got solar, right, and then you combine it with stasis, then you get some interesting effect. When you synergize the two elements together, you get more damage on a boss. And you could do that with all the elements. Combine fire and poison together, because we'd have a poison subclass. We've got solar. Combine those two together on a boss, damage wise, you maybe do some unique damage because you've matched two different elements. Because this game's all about matching elements. Even shield break, like, oh, there's void shields, I need to match a void shield. Well, why don't we have opposite elements? So elements have weaknesses and pros and cons to each element. Like Pokemon, like what we played as a kid. I'm sure everyone's played Pokemon, we know how that works, right? Just like that, but in this game, it would work out really well. It would make raid compositions really interesting. You'd always want somebody on Stasis. You might want somebody on Arc, and it wouldn't just be everyone on Well Radiance or everybody on one class. So boring. There's a lot of stuff in this game where it is fun to play when classes are playing different elements, right? So that's just an idea I had, just because of the new leaks with the poison and stuff. It'll never happen, what I've just said, but I think it'd be cool if it did. It'd be a good idea. They could incorporate it to shield breaks as well. Enemy shields and stuff. Like, so, unmatching shields is better, as opposed to matching shields. But you need the right element. So it'd be a key and lock type thing, like what we've got, I guess. But at least you're having to think a little bit more, right? As opposed to what we've been doing. So this Unstoppable's pretty straightforward to take, you can see. My goal right now is taking out all the ads, the legendaries, right? The champions, the Unstoppable champs, should I say, the phalanxes and all that. Because we're going to deal with the barriers at the very end, but I need all ads dead, taken out, before I can do what I need to do. Because I need to bridge the gap between us, me, and the barriers. And this room's a little awkward for that when I haven't got a barrier round weapon to take. But I do end up finding a spot on the go, on sort of improvising. I was just trying to think of a good place to stand, because I know where I'm standing right now isn't good. And this is where I would stand if I had Arbalest on, Outbreak Perfected, Forerunner, Eriana's Vow. If I had a barrier weapon, I would be good from here, but I'm not. So I need to take out all the legendaries, because they will nade you to death. Right? Any legendaries that you don't combat will just nade you whilst dealing with a barrier, and that will interrupt your freeze lock on a champ, because you've got to move. When you get a nade at your feet, you need to move. You can tank it at tier 10 resilience, but you can't tank 2 nades. Can't. So it's a case of, you don't want to have to move. You want to post up somewhere and be able to deal with these barriers, because the double barrier, as I say, for this is well, it was awkward until I figured out where I could stand, which is on top of hanging a ship up just in front of us on the left. Still a legendary alive though, 1 or 2, so I need to take them out. There's one orange bar at the back of the map which we don't take. I should have done though, but it didn't matter too much. Pay attention to the ammo drops as well. Like, I haven't got any heavy here, so I want a bit more heavy for the boss fight. So I'm gonna try to prioritize a little bit more Witherhoard Duskfield. So you're gonna see how we sort of combat that. Actually, I'm using a bit of linear here, so I'm doing the opposite of what I've just said. I guess on the first one I'm gonna melt him, because that's the more important champ, and I'm getting naded by that legionary over the other side, which was annoying. But look at how good where this champ has just stood. It's the perfect place for us. Right, so I'm gonna do a bit of Duskfield work. So grenade, barricade, Witherhoard. Champ's half HP. We spent no heavy. This is just showing you how good the build is. I could have done this the entire run. Just know that if I did, the run would have been longer than what it is. Wasn't a bad run, but it wasn't a fast run by no means. But I did enjoy doing it. I did enjoy that. That's one thing. It was just fun with Diamond Lance and stuff. Like, Diamond Lance is really good as well in itself, because it's like an extra nade. In a sense, as long as you hit the targets. I missed him there. We'll just deal with this orange bar first before we're activating the switch. This run will be no exploit as well, of course. We can't actually exploit the boss with this subclass. To exploit the boss, you would need to be on Void or Solar. Solar and Void will work for the exploit. If you don't know about that, then just ask me. I can link you videos, countless videos I've done where you exploit this boss. I'm not exploiting him on this. I'm just going to do a legit run, no cheese, no exploit. Because again, it's adding to the video, it's showcasing the build, it's showcasing my weapons, and all that stuff. So I done a run with Xenophage as well last week. That is actually relevant for this week. So if you want to see that, Xenophage is a good pick for this. Galahorn's a good pick for it. Skyburner's Oath's an excellent pick if you want to run like a Scorch, Dawnblade, Dawn Chorus setup. Not Dawnblade, but Dawn Chorus, I meant to say. Polaris Lance is alright. Its Scorch abilities aren't that good though. I think Skyburner's is better. So there's a couple of different builds. Forerunner's good, the sidearm, because it's literally better than Ariana's Vow, Forerunner. Just it's got a little bit of issues. I think it's still buggy damage wise, and its ammo per brick's poor. It was really good before they nerfed it. They shouldn't have done. Why would they nerf from Forerunner for what? 16 per brick now, where it was like 30 or whatever, which was really good. You know, they should have just left it as it was, because how many people are really using Forerunner? If we really put down the numbers, not many people. So if anything, incentivize people to use it as opposed to not. So with the new exploit, obviously everything changes. You want to keep a tank or a Scorpius turret alive. If you're using this, if you're copying my mods and stuff, then leave a turret alive so that we can get Charge of Light. This is gonna help us to secure a third amount of HP taken off this boss. See, the boss, it's quite finite. The phases of this boss, like a half of the first bar, the boss will start to back up slowly, right? If you don't do any damage, the boss will sit up on his podium and snipe you forever. To avoid that, we need to do a little bit of free damage, right? So we're meeting our damage to the damage, the next damage section, if you like. But this damage I'm doing is 3. It's free damage. The boss will not move yet. So we can actually get more damage in by doing this. I'm actually not starting my DPS, if you like, until I'm ready, which will be coming up. This is like vanilla D2 2017 strats. This is old strats, but it's funny that it still works today. But I can take advantage of it now. So you'll see how much damage I get in because of it. And it means when the boss goes to his podium, he won't snipe you. So it's not a risk. So you're going to see how we do that. I've got my Charge of Light. I cannot get 1 shot from the boss, but I can get 2 shot. Make sure we're reloaded. We need to activate bait and switch here. We'll use a barricade as well. How the boss sniped me there was quite interesting. We'll freeze first to keep that boss in spot. Witherhoard's done some damage. It didn't stick, but it at least done some damage for bait and switch. Now we'll just get as many shots in as we can. Not too much though. I know if I'd done too much damage, like if I got the boss to half HP, which I could have done, the boss would actually skip podium 1, the tower 1, and actually come down and then initiate phase 2, which would be a nightmare because you're on GM difficulty and there'll be fresher ships, there'll be dogs. It'd be an absolute nightmare without invis. So only do a third HP. I could have done more, but don't, because then you're just escalating things. You're making it too hard for yourself. There's going to be 2 enemy spawns at once. You'll be punished, and you have to deal with it all. And you haven't got the. This build is good, but you haven't got invis to sort of, avoid all that stuff. Just take note of what Witherhoard's doing there. Anyone want to explain that to me? What's going on? I think I know what's going on, but let me know down below. What do you think is going on with that? Because Witherhoard is bouncing off that elevator, because that is the elevator we come up on. Witherhoard is very interesting because it's grenade itself, right? It sometimes bounces off surfaces. It's hard. I don't know. Maybe it's certain surfaces that are classed as hard in the game. Like another example is, what do you call it? Lightblade. Anyone know Lightblade with the tomb ships? You put your Witherhoard on, it bounces off the tomb ship. Fresher there. I can't Witherhoard this fresher. It bounces. So I don't know why it does that. It is quite annoying though, I know that. But if I'd done a Witherhoard on the ground anywhere else, it wouldn't be bouncing. But on that elevator, it just bounces off. Maybe some surfaces in this game are counted as like different to other surfaces. God knows. But that's what was happening there. I wasn't missing my Witherhoard shots per se. It was just they were bouncing right off and going somewhere else. So we're just going to deal with damage with our scout. Right? Which is doing decent damage, but I am having to outstrafe some of that solar damage, some of that solar stuff I'm taking. So the boss is obviously shielded, which is done from our damage we've done before. We're going to pick up the orb, which will spawn the first set of adds. Right, but we're going to drop orb. No need to juggle relics. There's absolutely no point in us doing that. We're just going to clear the adds. The relics on a time, obviously, will just respawn at the back of the map, so... We're just going to deal with these. There's an orange bar here. I want a Witherhoard because Witherhoard will actually just one-shot that enemy. So I can Witherhoard and forget. Get my elemental well as well. Now I've got 9 shots, which is... It's not that low, but it is quite, so... I'll decide whether I want to use some heavy on this Centurion and not 'cause it's all shielded. But it doesn't really matter because Witherhoard actually will take down this shield. If I keep freezing and stuff. What you want to avoid is the Centurion jumping in the air just like that. Because that attack is actually quite deadly. The void. It's actually quite accurate as well. Obviously I could have stopped all that by just using some heavy, you know. But I didn't want to waste too much because I need some heavy coming up. And there's a couple more solar shields and some more DPS to do before then. So I'm just going to, as I said, take down that Centurion with our Stasis, which was easy to do. Easy enough. Okay, so we'll go for the relic. This is going to be dog phase. So think of this as the phase 2 is the dog phase, right? There's no adds, there's no legionaries on this particular phase, which is good. It's a good thing. It's just you, the boss, turrets, dogs. I don't recommend being too close to the boss as well, because if you get sniped and the dog would bite you, that will kill you. So it's a case of focus adds. I'm going to do one with a hard shot, some tick damage to the boss, because that boss will then go over the other side and spawn in an extra set of Scorpius turrets. While all that's happening, that will actually spawn us in 2 waves of dogs as opposed to 1. So we want all the dogs to come out at once, right? Which Witherhoard, Duskfields are going to do a good job of that. That was close there. If you saw that shot, that was so close I would have died there if anyone saw that. Literally I was half HP. Boss sniped and missed us. So, just goes to show, always be on the move, especially if you know that you're exposed by the boss. The best thing that you can do is keep moving. Don't stop. Don't sort of try to outstrafe. Just keep running one direction and you won't get hit. Or less likely to. You can see there's a bunch of dogs just pushing us at the meat. This is a good place to stand, you can see, because the boss can't snipe us. But dogs do chase. There's a no turn back zone behind me if you go so far back. But yeah, it's just a case of cleaning up. If there's only a couple of dogs left, they'll hide, and I didn't want that. So I know there's a dog or 2 left somewhere, and I'm not wanting to start this next DPS phase until all the dogs are killed. So I'm just looking for the dog now. We also want another charge of light. It's not required, it just makes DPS easy. It just means that it's guaranteed that I'll get it's the same thing as phase 1. We need to get the boss down to a 3rd HP left. If we don't, that boss will snipe us from that tower. You're a sitting target. If you let that happen, you're a sitting target. So it's a case of get your damage in now whilst it's easier, because when he's up there, his hitbox is hard to hit, and there's adds chasing you, and you've initiated the next phase. So we've separated DPS from adds. And in any case, in any Grandmaster where you can do that, where you can separate thing, an ad encounter from DBS, try it. It'll make your life easy. You're dealing with things methodically in stages as opposed to dealing with everything at once. Because then you just don't know what's happening at that point, unless you're on a certain class like Invis or even Soul 3.0. You can play mindlessly, right? So we're initiating our damage, bait and switch. I'll try that freeze will give us more time as well, as opposed to generally. Boss is a 3rd HP. This is the same thing as well. If you do too much damage, the boss will actually skip tower 2, come down below, and he'll chase you while there's a bunch of ads, which again you don't want. You want the boss to actually just shield himself up top, so it's just you and the ads. You've isolated the boss from the ads. Right. That'll only happen, as I say, if you have bait and switch Cataclysmic, which you can end up doing too much damage because it's that good. It's so good. Especially I'm stacking all the buffs. I'm stacking all the stuff, you know, together as well. But it means I can save on ammo as that's another thing. See, ammo efficiency isn't just about you using the ammo efficiently. It's about what your build's about. If you use like a weapon type build where you're all about ammo and damage buffs for your weapons, then you will use less ammo because you get more damage per shot, which means you have more ammo for the entire run, which means it's way easier. That's why I'm all about weapon builds. I'm not too much about subclass builds too much, unless that subclass is really, I think, truly really good. Like, you know, like the OG ones like Voidwalker, Controversial. That is an original classic build that works, and I know it does. Heart of Inmost Light on all Titan classes, I know it works, right? The Law Resplendor Exotic Helm for Solar, I know it works. Yeah. Hunter, Arcstrider, I made a video about that recently. Raiden Flux, I know it works. Melt barriers. Hunter Invis, Omnioculus, Graviton Forfeit, 6 Coyote. I all know that this stuff works, but when you see someone like making like, use Kepri's Horn, it's good. What are they talking about? Use Kepri's Horn. And you know, and stuff like that. You know, off-meta exotics. I like off-meta exotics. If I see that there's a shining light in them, that there's something that people are missing about it, I'll use them. But if it's just stupid, where they're just making a video about something, use this chest plate, it's so good. Well, no, it isn't. It really isn't. Like Warlock chest plate. You know, using the chest plate that gives you infinite healing rifts. What's the point? Just use the Fusion Grenade build. Starfire Protocol. Starfire Protocol beats all builds for well radiance end of discussion, because Fusion Grenades are just so good. So what's the point in healing rifts when Fusion Grenades are so good anyway? So that's the sort of thinking that you need to do in these endgames, in these endgame builds, is use a bit of common sense as opposed to this looks fancy, I like it, I want it to be good. So I don't want something to be good, I want to see if it is good, and if it is good, I like it. I'm not favourites, I'm not a favouritism. There's people that are favourites to builds. They want it to be better than what it really is. Whereas I judge every subclass hard. Is this subclass really that good? No. Right, well I'm not using it. That's how I go about that thinking. Whereas if I think, oh, this subclass isn't getting used much, but it is good, right, I'm going to use it and try and showcase it off. So this final ad wave, pretty simple, like we've just been doing with everything. I'm going to use a bit of solar here. Enemies fell off map, missing our shots, oh well. I'm going to save the last 7 shots for DPS on boss. We don't really need our super, but it is an option. We're 60%, we'll get our super, we should get our super close coming up for boss damage. I didn't want to, I was worried about using my super on the boss because it's quite a close range thing. Because when you actually push the boss, he does that solar attack. He leaves a solar lava floor where his legs are, right? Because of solar acute burn, you get melted by it. So trying to use like a melee build on this boss is a nightmare unless you've got like a bubble, a well, If you haven't got stuff like that, then you're in danger of just getting melted by his. It's like he's got ACD, the gauntlets on. It's almost like that, but it's solar. So, I was wanting to focus more Witherhoard, my weapon damage, but we will use super if we must, if we get weak, because snipers spawn on this phase. So, on the final phase, to actually deal with this properly, you can come either corner of the map, left and right's got it, because this actually confuses the boss. The boss will push you so far, and then when the boss can't get you, what's the boss going to do? He's going to go up the ramp and try and get you that way. So you just go and ring around the rosy with him. It's just left, right, left, right. He doesn't know what to do. What I done there wrong was I didn't take out the sniper. So I got sniped there, and I was totally lazy with that. I was actually lucky to survive, to be honest. So yeah, make sure that you take out your snipers. I can't mind how many snipers spawn either. That sniper was actually up top somewhere. I couldn't see where he was. So I'm just going to focus on trying to get some Witherhoard shots and not be too greedy with damage, because I was wanting to try and finish him with Cataclysmic, but I'm being a bit greedy. So I'm going to get the boss weak with Witherhoard and use a super in a minute. But that was the solo Grandmaster for the Behemoth on Arms Dealer. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.